This is the most expensive phone review we've ever done on this channel. Let's talk about the Galaxy Z Flip. So folding phones have started to hit the mainstream market, and that means that these things are starting to become more available for you and me to purchase. Not just tech reviewers getting some prototypes to play around with, you and I can actually go out and buy these things right now. I bought this from Best Buy for $1,300. After tax was $1,500. That's the most expensive phone I have ever purchased, period. So I'm going to start this review off by telling you guys exactly how this phone feels like as a daily driver, not just initial unboxing reactions or how it feels like to play with it. This is actually in my pocket, next to my head, in my hand, every single day, every single hour. So there's going to be a lot of negative things that I'm going to talk about with this phone, and I don't mean it as a negative on this form factor. I mean, this is still a relatively new type of tech with this whole folding screen thing. It's not like the old folding phones that we used to have. This is a new category. So there's growing pains here, and it's not that I don't like the phone. It's just there's a lot of little things out here that you as a consumer buying a $1,500 phone should know about. So the first thing you think about when you see a flip phone like this is how much space it'll save in your pocket. But if you think about it, this is cramming two modern cell phones together when you clamshell close it. So when you close it like this, you're essentially cramming two modern cell phones into your pocket. So it actually adds a lot more bulk than if you just had that normal slab in your pocket. Of course, the problem also with a regular candy bar shaped phone is that the phones are getting bigger and bigger now. And that screen, when you slide it into your pant pocket, it actually takes up a whole bunch of space. That's the ultimate fix you and I as male consumers need. I'll get to female consumers in a bit, but the fact that you fold this thing and it actually doubles the thickness in your pocket, that actually feels more uncomfortable to me than having that longer slab take up more space in your pocket. So while it takes up less depth in your pocket, it actually feels more uncomfortable in my opinion. So that definitely does not solve that issue we as males have with these phones taking up our pocket spaces. Now, for a female consumer, this might be different because it doesn't matter about the depth. The phone length sometimes affects ladies who put their phones in purses. Some of these phone displays are getting really, really long. And the fact that some ladies like having smaller purses, their phones might not fit in these small hand purses that they take to a club or to a fancy dinner. So this, however, when you fold it, it takes up less length space, but more depth space, which a purse can handle. For men, it doesn't work for our pockets. For ladies on their purses, it does conserve more space. As for the display, when it opens up fully and it becomes that candy bar shape, it's 6.7 inches, super AMOLED display. You do see a crease down the center, and it's a 1080p screen. So this is not a Quad HD, not a 4K resolution screen. $1,500. Once again, Samsung, it is a folding display, so you lose the higher resolution for the trick of folding it with that little crease in the center. I don't know if that's worth the trade-off because, like I said in that other video I did when I first got the phone, you're going to be using this phone 90% of the time in its open position, this candy bar shape, which every other phone out there has. So when you forfeit some of that visual quality for something you use a majority of the time, that is a little bit sad, honestly, especially when you pay so much money for it. Now, you're going to be saying, oh, Alex, you are totally just not understanding what this phone is because it's a flip phone. But think about the problem and the solution. What is the problem? What is the solution? If the problem that this phone is trying to address is that we want the same visual experience, but we want it in a more compact form factor, by folding it, we should get that form factor. But when we unfold it, we don't have the same visual experience. I mean, is that sacrifice worth it? This technology is going to be the future. Don't get me wrong. In 5 years, this type of folding screen, it's going to be in everyone's pocket. I honestly and truly believe that. It's just not there right now, right? And the price point obviously will drop down. But even in that 5-year span, in that future, If your folding screens are only 1080p and not quad HD, or not 4K and it's not going up and it's going down to make it like this, is it really worth that sacrifice? This is one of those first generation things where a newer tech actually has specs going down instead of going up. It seems like we just don't know exactly where we're going with technology. We'll go back to the display a little bit later, but right now we're going to also talk about something that relates to that, which is the Snapdragon 855 Plus is what powers this phone, and it uses 8 gigabytes of RAM. And while those numbers are great and the processor itself is also very good, that is not the highest end processor. The Snapdragon 865 launched aside these phones with the Galaxy S20. So while I understand why they didn't put that in there, this took a lot more R&D than it does to make the S20. So I understand why they kept a processor they had more time with. 3,300 milliamp hour battery powers this phone, and the way they did it actually was good. Instead of having the battery only on one side, they evened it out on both so that it is actually very even on both sides, which I really like. So you can actually set the phone on your table halfway folded and it evenly stays still. That is a great design choice, and I'm glad Samsung did this. See, there are certain things out here that Samsung did that makes this phone really nice to use, and that battery distribution is one of them. Battery life, however, is okay. It's average. I get about the 3.5 hours of screen on time, which is average. I get about 10 to 12 hours of battery life on this phone. Sometimes I have to stretch it. This brings me to another point of mine, which is wireless charging for something like this form factor. A lot of us have Qi chargers that are stands, right? Length stands, like the Pixel stand, or like in my Tesla Model 3, I do have a Qi charger there that you set your phone. When you fold this phone up, it doesn't hit the sweet spot to charge this phone. It's interesting because when I fold up the phone, it's too short. It doesn't hit the sweet spot for these stand Qi chargers. But when I open it up all the way, it's too big. The aspect ratio makes this too long, so it doesn't fit into my stand area. So it's it's a weird conundrum here. I mean, it's a minor thing, but it is something you have to keep in mind if you do have that infrastructure already set up. Like, for example, my Tesla, there's nothing I can change there. I just don't use Qi charging now when I'm using this phone. So there was a lot of paranoia about the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip's display being easily damaged, easily scratchable, and it's basically a lot of people thought it was like a plastic film that you can cut with your fingernails. Look, I just cut my fingernails, but my fingernails do grow pretty fast, and I've used this phone without really scratching it. However, the phone does scratch easily. Like, even when I opened this for the first time, I noticed some weird little like scratches after an hour that it's just there. It's like weird scratches that I'm a very cautious user of all my technology and just basically every possession in general. I mean, just look around the office. I'm a hoarder, but I see value in everything. So, especially these phones, I take pretty good care of my phones. I have scratches on this phone, and you cannot use a screen protector. There's no screen protectors that really work for this phone. Same thing with cases. You go on Amazon, you don't have a wide assortment of cases for Samsung phones like you normally would. This only has like 2 or 3 cases that you can currently buy on Amazon. Luckily, they do have a default plastic case that they gave you. It's not that great and it's very slippery to hold, but at least you have something protected. I really, really, really do feel like this phone is very, very scary to use because half of it is the price point. I did pay $1,500 for it. The other thing is, of course, the perception that this phone is easily damaged, but also because it's a folding phone. And because we're not used to having folding phones, we worry that every single time we play with it, that it's going to break. And while that hasn't been the case, the hinge is really strong, and it's awesome that there's no air gaps or anything when you open this display and close this display up. I'm very impressed with that. However, I do have to say I do get paranoid when I'm talking on the phone here. I'm worried that I'm going to drop the phone, or when I'm in bed and I'm browsing on Reddit or something, I am so scared that I'm gonna drop this phone off my bed and it's gonna hit the ground onto the wood floor and scratch or break this display. There is a part of me that when I use this phone, I feel like it's super, super fragile and that I have to be ultra careful of it. And I have not felt like that for a very long time. I've used phones 700, 800, $900 in MSRP, and I don't feel that way. And then I also have to talk about what this flipping mechanic actually does for your performance, for your actual usage. Does it actually help you? Does it do anything different that other phones can't do? Honestly, not really. I have not noticed it like benefiting my lifestyle at all. Yeah, it's cool to set the phone down with it propped up to take a selfie, but it's a low angle selfie. I could just hold it with my hand if I had a regular like flat phone. So that really doesn't change it much. Do I duo a lot? Probably not. But even if I did, I'm showing like my sister or my mom the dogs or something like that. There's no reason for me not just to hold up the phone and tilt the angle anyway. I got to tilt the angle when I open it up like this as it is. What this is kind of cool as a little like fashion trick is I've had, we've had, I have lent this out to some of my female friends to use as a makeup mirror. Yeah, $1,500 makeup mirror. The only benefit I have of this flip, and it's not really even a benefit, it's just something that I started doing that I kind of like, is propping it open like 75% of the way and browsing Reddit or or like Amazon or something like that and scrolling. It makes me feel like it makes me feel like I'm on the Enterprise from Star Trek. And you know how they have the communicators? I don't know. It kind of feels like that, and it's kind of fun to see how you can scroll on that with your finger and just see the text go through that curve. There also is a 1.1-inch Super AMOLED display, a little small one on the cover of the phone. You get to see your notifications, some ticker stuff there. So you tap on it, it gives you like a couple seconds for it to scroll through. Kind of like what you see on ESPN on the bottom or on news networks, they have a little ticker there. Not a lot of time for you to see all your information through. So if you tap on Twitter, it has a Twitter icon, you tap on it, you see something scroll by, it doesn't let you finish it. You still have to open the phone up. So you have to open the phone up regardless. That notification slider there is kind of useless in my opinion. It really is. It doesn't let you do much of anything. It doesn't save you the effort of unflipping the phone. So if we really have a display out there, you would think you want something there to help you avoid opening the phone up. If this phone folds a certain amount of time in its life cycle, you kind of want to preserve those folds. This doesn't do that because you can't see the whole message. You still got to open it up. I don't know. I don't know, man. I feel like this particular area needs that whole front side needs to be an actual display. And I do feel like Samsung's going to do that in the next generation. So if Samsung adds like a screen on the cover, or even like a square aspect ratio screen that you can just scroll through your emails and your text messages, and you do 30% of what you normally do on your smartphone just with that screen, so you don't have to open it up every single time, that could save some of the stress on the fold. And I do understand this is a first generation product, but that's exactly why we make videos like this. It's a first generation product. Samsung needs to hear things like this and you know, see how consumers want their products to be like. And that's how I feel like these things will become mainstream everyday phones. That has a tremendous, what I just said there has a tremendous benefit for us as users. Whereas that little ticker, no, it doesn't. Now, for the cameras on the back of the phone, we do have two 12 megapixel cameras. One's an ultra wide, one's a regular wide. These cameras are okay. So, you know what? Don't expect the photo quality on this particular phone to wow you. If you've used a modern smartphone, like if you've come from like a Pixel 2 or Pixel 3 or something like that, and you're getting this, don't expect the quality photos here to be that like mind-blowingly better. It's not. You're not buying this phone for the photo quality. They do a good job, a good enough job, and they live up to like a certain Samsung threshold. But I would go with the S20 and the S20 family for a better camera experience from Samsung as of right now. So while it does feel like I have a lot of negatives to say about this phone, it's not really negatives as it is feedback for Samsung, because this phone is not meant for you and me to buy. It really isn't. The fact that you can't even touch this phone in a display area at Best Buy, which they make these display areas to entice you and me to buy these phones so we can touch it exactly what Apple does with their Apple stores. The fact that they steal this off in a glass means it's not for you and me. But the fact that we can, if you really want to, buy this and use it is a huge step forward in this particular technology. This video was really just more me talking about this particular form factor. So in the future, when I review more phones like this, the review won't be like this. It won't be this long. I probably won't have this much to say about it, but because this is the first one I've reviewed of this form factor, I think it warrants me going into it in depth a little bit more. So I do want to also admit that this hinge, when you close the phone, the first few times you do it, the first day or two you do it, it's cool. When people see it in the street, they're going to be like, wow, that is cool. So while I totally get that, you, as the person who did buy this phone and has it in your pocket, and you have to open it up every single day for dozens and dozens and dozens of times a day, that wears off quickly. I think after 2-3 days, I was over the flipping motion. Really, I was over the clap. After a phone call, clap. I'm over it. I was over it. So I don't think this form factor is a gimmick, though. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a gimmick. I just think eventually, just like how we used to use flip phones, it's going to be a normal thing. So this is not a gimmick. It's just something new right now that everybody's excited about because the screen technology is interesting. We didn't have screens that folded like this when we were using flip phones. Now we do. That's the exciting part. That's the cool part. I think that's where a lot of people are excited with this phone. But the actual flipping phone aspect of it, we've used that before. It's not that exciting. It's not that new. It's not that enticing to the everyday user. It really isn't. So once that leaves you, once that initial shock of having a folding screen goes away, it's just a regular phone. Once again, I'm Alex from Hypnotech. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you guys think of everything I said there and what you guys think of this particular phone, the Z Flip. I know there's a lot to digest here, and once again, I'm not hating on this phone. I do like the phone. I'm glad Samsung made something like this. It's just not a great phone for an everyday user. It really isn't, and it's not meant to be. But as a reviewer, I got to tell you what it's like to use this phone on an everyday basis, and I told you exactly that. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.
And that's it. Be sure to subscribe here, hit the bell button so you don't miss any of our videos, and check out our other videos right here. Until next time,